I honestly felt like I was slogging along. I'm just going to say I absolutely love this book. Hey everyone, I am popping in here really quick just because I just finished editing this video, and to just be blunt, I feel like the intro I previously recorded is a bit of trash. So I'm re-recording this in hopes to help clarify some things. I feel like a lot of how I'm communicating in this video is not my best. I wish I could be a little bit more eloquent, but we got some choppy editing going on in here, I will say. I wanted to drive the point home in that I'm reading my book of the month selections so far throughout this year. From the months January to June, I'm reading 3 books in this video, and I'm in process of reading the other 3 books as well. So most people know what it is. If you don't, Book of the Month is a book subscription service. So every single month they give you an option between 5 to 7 different books to read, all different genres, and then you can choose which book interests you most. And I just think it's such a great service. It's a fun way to learn of new authors, and then also have some recurring authors, and it can be as much community oriented as you want it to be. Yeah, super fun. So anyways, I don't think I have much else to say, but I am starting off my first book with the month of March. So I'll put up on the screen the March options that they gave us, and I guess try and guess what I selected before I tell you. The book I'm going to be reading is called Care and Feeding by Lori Wolliver. It is a memoir. The little description up top also explains that Lori Wolliver's writing is candid, funny, and occasionally devastating. She's working her way through the food world, navigating addiction, cultural reckoning, and an unexpected tragedy. So this is very much going to be like a real life experience. But without further ado, let's get into it. I wanted to do a quick update. Yesterday, I read to page 154 in Care and Feeding by Lori Wolliver. And I'm just going to say, I absolutely love this book. It is so much fun to read. We're basically in New York City during the early 2000s. And this is when Wolliver was like in her mid to late 20s. And we're getting what I believe is to be like her most authentic experience. She's talking about her struggling with addiction, the different relationships that she's in, just kind of like her mentality during this time, but also her experiences in the culinary world, which again, I think there's just something about that world that really draws me in. We get some insight of her experiences with Mario Batali. We're learning a bit more about Anthony Bourdain. And then on top of that, like other jobs and tasks that she had done. So she was like a private chef to different families, working different events. She was like a writer for cookbooks and affiliated to like a culinary magazine. So there's all these different jobs in this world, which I kind of just like forget about. I don't think about that necessarily. Um, Cooper's Hawk. But yeah, it's so much fun. Every time she talks about food, I just pretty much salivate right on the spot. And I don't know, there's just such a cool dichotomy in this world where there's one side of the token that I think has this really like polished, sophisticated, creative, like there's science behind all of these things that make a professional. But at the same time, to get there, you kind of have to go through the trenches. The energy can be very chaotic and a little, I think, like devious at the same time, too, which is really just like a form of coping I think people have when they're as stressed out as they are doing these jobs. So it's just really interesting to get like a firsthand account. The book and writing remind me very much of the TV series The Bear, if you've ever watched that. I'm honestly also just personally inspired where I started to backtrack, and every time she would start talking about different cookbooks and just like staples in this world, I'm also now writing them down so I can personally check them out. I'm just inspired. I'm having so much fun reading this, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. So that's my plan for tonight, is probably to read for like, I don't know, 30 more minutes, and then I'm gonna cook dinner. And then my goal is to finish this and hopefully get a decent amount of the way through another book. We'll see what happens. So I did end up finishing Care and Feeding last night by Lori Wolliver, and I will just remain consistent and say that I think this is a great book. I would recommend reading it if you like the Food Network. The book moves very quickly. There's so much information that happens throughout this book. It's not only her experiences during her 20s and 30s, but also into her 40s and seemingly what's a current date of time. A lot of things happen. We do learn a lot more of her struggles that she has and her taking recognition of that and what she's doing to overcome it. So that's really cool to have like a little bit of a lighter note at the end of the book. And then we also learn more background of Anthony Bourdain, which I really like because he just has always had good things, I think, being said about him. So just to continually have someone being praised and not just like hearing that people are the worst all the time is a great thing. What did kind of throw me a little bit, I will say, is that she did end up disclosing some information of some occurrences that happened prior to his death. And I was personally just like a little taken aback by some of it, where it just felt like it should have been privated information. Like, I don't know if this information's already public or not, and that if I'm just like behind the times, but I just kind of thought it was, I don't want to say in bad taste, but I was just surprised to see it, I guess. Something else that confused me too was in the synopsis of the book on the jacket, there's, where is it? Revered restaurants and food publications while being alternatively bolstered and overshadowed by two of the most powerful men in the business. So she's talking about Mario Batali and Anthony Bourdain and that they overshadowed her. And I had never heard of Lori Wolliver before, so when I first read that and like saw the word overshadowed, I was kind of thinking that she was of the same celebrity status as them, and I just had never heard of her because they're men and she's a woman. It created this sexist argument in my head, but she was their assistant. So overshadowed, I think, is maybe not the best word to use there. What would be the best word to use? I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird because then I was like, this isn't sexist in the way that my mind was interpreting it to be. You know what I mean? There are other instances of sexism in the book, but like it's not there. It's not from that. So that was a little confusing. But regardless, I did enjoy the book. I liked the direction it went, and I liked just kind of again like being in the grittier parts of things in the city, working with food. I am going to be looking up local cooking classes near me, so it's like very exciting. Okay, so yesterday, that's all I ended up reading. I was reading until after midnight, which is not my norm by any means. So I picked up my second book today, and that book is one of the options from February. And that book is called First Time Caller by BK Borison. I have like a nice little peachy palette up here. I've heard a lot about this book this year. Basically, a Sleepless in Seattle inspired novel, which is to me like a big bowl of soup. This is an inverse of Sleepless in Seattle. So instead of it being on the West Coast, it's on the East Coast. Instead of it being like a single father, it's a single mother. There is a radio show where the show itself is like about love and relationships. And basically, the host is super jaded at this point in time. He's been working at this program for over 6 years and just constantly getting bombarded with people. He's starting to believe that love is no more. And lo and behold, one night there's a 12-year-old girl that calls in on the account of her mom and just really wants her mom to find someone to fall in love with and like thinks that this host will help her do that. And presumably they will connect. I am currently on page, where am I at? I'm on page 96, and this book is a little over 400 pages. So I'm just going to try to strap in and read as much as I can. I don't know if I'll be able to complete this book. I'm not going to say I will just because I don't want to stay up until after midnight again. But we're going to do what we can. starting to wind down a little bit. This is one of my favorite teas that I like to drink. It's from Trader Joe's. It's the ginger, turmeric, and licorice root. So it's like really warming and calming, but also sweet because of the licorice root. So I do like that. I've had ginger turmeric teas before, but the turmeric always makes them taste so bitter that I haven't cared for them. And this is the one. I wanted to give an update on my reading. For the past hour, have been reading alongside Gavin with one of his old videos where he was streaming and doing live sprints. I have read to page 216 in First Time Caller, and it's starting to pick up for me a little bit. The first 100 pages or so, I feel like we are really just getting another version of Sleepless in Seattle. Like it felt so similar to it that I honestly just wanted to stop reading and watch the movie itself. But after moving past that 100-page mark, I feel like the characters are starting to deviate a little bit and form their own paths, which is what I want to be reading. It is interesting because the characters aren't only speaking of one another, although the chapters are alternating between Aiden, the host of the show, and Lucy, like our female mother. What kind of puts a little bit more of a spin on this is that there are other characters that she's pursuing and trying to date, and some of them work out, some of them work out, being in the sense of some feel like there's possibility that they can work out, whereas others are, not so much, but there's still effort being put into that of her finding her true love. That's where we're at right now. I'd say the writing is like okay for me. There hasn't really been any sort of dialogue that like has really grabbed my attention by any means. I'm going to keep reading probably maybe for like another 15 or 20 minutes or so. Then I will update you probably tomorrow when I finish the book. I did end up finishing First Time Caller by B.K. Borison earlier this morning. After I completed it, I was reading different reviews about this book and also just some of her other writing as well. I didn't realize this at the time, but she popularly wrote the Love Like Farm series, which I've seen circulating over the past few years, and I've heard good reviews about that. And then this book in itself, the majority are rating between like 4 and 5 stars, which is great. I, however, am definitely on the outlier, I think, of all of this, and I really had a hard time working my way through this book. I honestly felt like I was slogging along, but I think a large part of that is just that the characters to me felt a lot younger than what they were written to be. And in that, I just mean the communication felt a little surface level, and like same thing with the jokes. Like I just didn't really, I think, connect in the way I was hoping for. The MMC in particular to me felt extremely unlikable and was just like a horrible communicator. So for our FMC to have this relationship with him and wanting to build that, I just could not relate. This is the first book in a series as well, the Heartstring series, which is what the name of the radio show is called. So I know I'm not going to be continuing the series. I think I might read this author one more time because I realize she does have a Christmas book that's coming out this year, and there's possibility I'll like that. So I'll probably give that a go when I see it come out. I probably would have DNF'd if this was a library book, but anytime I purchase something, I just kind of feel this obligation to finish it out and see if something changes or like what the better qualities of the book are. And for me, in this book, I think I just really like the notion of her paying tribute to Nora Ephron. And I think that's pretty fun and unique. The next book that I want to read is more of like a lit fic, and that is The Sun Was Electric Light by Rachel Morton. This kind of has a fun little color scheme, the red, yellow, and like dark blue. I forget what this is called, like a lino cut? Wood blocking? Light leak on it kind of reminds me of an alien. But from what I know of this, our main character, Ruth, lives in New York and trying to figure herself out. She's not having a great time in New York, so she ends up booking a trip to Guatemala, which she remembers vacationing with her family. It sounds like she basically moves there. So she's now in Guatemala, finding purpose with herself and forming relationships with some other women that I don't know if she has relationships with them. She might. I did read that this book was LGBTQ. Happy to read this next. It is one of the smaller books that I have as well, so I think that's going to be a little bit of a pick-me-up after reading this 400-page book, or finishing this 400-page book earlier today. Okay, folks. So I just finished The Sun Was Electric Light by Rachel Morton, and I was reading that this is actually her first published novel. She's more known for writing shorter creative works, lots of poetry. So I think she did an excellent job, and you can definitely tell that she's a creative person just on her description and kind of more sensory elements. She does seem very sensitive, and just we're talking a lot, I think, about like emotion, and the whole book is just this feeling of this person feeling lost. I think that can be relatable for everyone at some point in your life if you haven't already experienced that. What at first seems as though she goes to Guatemala as like a sense of escapism. She does find work there, she finds friends there. This book does talk about grief as well, which is something I was not expecting it to. And that definitely tugged on my heartstrings a little bit. My favorite takeaway of this book is she's now in Mexico and she befriends this like older man, and he's an artist and he's created this life for himself where he has confidence and purpose, and like basically has created magic out of everything he does. And obviously for someone who's lacking all of those things and just struggling to move, having someone operate at that level is deeply admirable. She's talking to this man about like her grieving process, and this is what he says. He goes, "But Ruth," he leant forward. He almost whispered now, "it is something wondrous, like a pearl that is made from the sand when the sand gets in. The sand gets in, it shouldn't get in, it is not meant to be there. But it gets in and it rubs for many years, and then he opens his hands out wide, a beautiful pearl. The priceless thing, the thing everybody wants." He became serious. "But it takes many years, Ruth. It is an art to survive those difficult years, to wait for the beautiful thing." And I thought that was very special because sometimes people do feel like giving up when times are tough, and it's hard to see past those emotions, I think, when people get stuck. So I thought that was just like a beautiful little metaphor to hold on to. I think she did a great job. I'd probably rate this like 3.5 stars. I rated, I mean, ratings don't really matter, right? I rated First Time Caller 2 stars. I think we're going to end the video here. I'm going to make, I think, some dinner of some sorts. I'll have to see what we have as ingredients. And or I think I'm being summoned. Sterling, you want to go on a car ride?